So when I revisited literature on the fall of the Soviet Union, it was 3 years ago. There was a 20 years anniversary of the fall of the Soviet Union. I found out that actually what I saw and what I read, I still wasn't satisfied with that. There was little in terms of the perspective and the experience that I had that was reflected in those books. So the republics were not there. The history was focused on Moscow and partly on Washington as well. Very important parts of the story, which are also part of the story that I tell in my book, but the republics were not there. And that's why I thought that the only way to correct those misinterpretations or omissions would be to write a book. I had to act and formulate my argument against a number of existing already narratives of the fall of the Soviet Union. So the first of them, I'll start with Russia. And what is quite popular today in Russia in terms of interpretation of and understanding of the causes of the fall of the Soviet Union is this kind of a conspiracy theories, that it was a CIA or it was some kind of a mysterious Harvard project, that people ahead of time were planning the destruction of the Soviet Union, and actually that's what happened. I didn't like that. I couldn't find much of evidence to that. The evidence that I was finding was that the administration of President George H.W. Bush was trying its best to keep Gorbachev in place and the Soviet Union running all the way into late November of 1991. So it's not exactly a conspiracy theory that is popular in Russia. On the American side, there is, of course, the very strong narrative that links together the end of the Cold War, the American victory in the Cold War, and the disintegration or destruction of the Soviet Union. And again, what I'm trying to show that the destruction or disintegration or dismemberment or partitioning of the Soviet Union was never American goal in the Cold War. And by the way, the Soviet Union fell apart a year and a half after two leaders declared that the Cold War was over. The summit, the Bush-Gorbachev summit, with which I start my story, was presented to the public as the first post-Cold War summit. So again, things didn't really work nicely in that narrative as well. And then there was another one that I like the most, and I exploit it to the best of my ability in my book, but I don't think that it explains everything. And this is the narrative of the personal relationship between Gorbachev and Yeltsin. So the hatred of one politician by another. And I put a lot of information on the political background and personal relations into my book. But again, no matter how important Gorbachev's and Yeltsin's relations were, by the time the Soviet Union fell apart in December of 1991, the battle of Russia against the center was already won by Russia. By the time of the Ukrainian referendum of December 1st, 1991, that sealed the fate of the Soviet Union, by that time, Gorbachev didn't have money to pay his secretaries and his assistants. All the money, all the resources were taken by Russia already. That happened, that the process started in the summer, the process started immediately after the coup. Oil, gas revenues, they became property of the republics. And in case of oil and gas in Russia, they became property of Russian Federation and Russian Republic. Well, so I'm kind of done with my favorite part of research, showing how everyone else is wrong.